Hey guys, we're back on this N-14. We got parts. Heads and head bolts are supposed to show up tomorrow. But you'll see, make sure these say standard on them. And no, I'm not plastic gauging this crank because there was nothing wrong with it. Cannot read that stuff. STD. That doesn't mean. Yeah. Let's see here. Alright, so you'll see the little half moon cut into there. That washer will go in right there. But we'll go ahead and get all the bearings in and get some assembly lube on them. I do at the minimum try to make sure every one of them say standard on them. That way one didn't get mispackaged and get me all screwed up. And obviously if you're a novice at this and you haven't done this before, the upper bearing, we've got the block upside down obviously. So the upper bearing shells are the ones you're going to have the oil hole in them. And the oil hole is going to match up with the oil hole in the engine block. So you get oil to the main bearings. And I took the blower nozzle and blew the holes out in the crankshaft really good. Gotta get that centered a little better. Should have been a little further ahead on this, but I fought a stupid excavator cylinder trying to get the nut off for half the day. Finally just took the torch and just blew it off. I mean, I didn't know what else to do with it. Order a new nut, I guess. Now that oil feed hole is offset, so that must be a special bearing on that one. Thrust bearing on number 7 is completely different, I know that. Just gotta pay attention to what a feller's doing when he's doing this kind of stuff. Well guys, I lost the video clip of me putting it in. I don't know where it went, but I put the cam bearings in. And now I'm putting cam followers in. Then I realized when I went back to look at the video on the camera, for some reason, it's not there. I don't know if I just didn't fully push the record button or what, but anyway, so let's go over cam follower gaskets. You'll notice that on the old cam followers, you'll see 0.32, that's 32 thousandths thick. So just for due diligence, to make sure that you're right, very important step is getting injection timing correct. I'm telling you, when the injection timing is set correctly, they will run like a top. If the injection timing is not set right, they'll smoke, sometimes they'll start hard, sometimes they'll have a fuel knock, sometimes they'll just have low power. Okay, so here's one of the old gaskets I pulled off. Now, keep in mind that sometimes you're going to get about a 1 or 2 thousandths difference if the gasket's been in there for a long time and it's just old and brittle and shrunk up. But a good way to do this is just take a mic, an outside mic. This is a 0 to 1 inch mic. And I don't have my glass. Oh, I got them on my head. So let's see here. Okay, I've got that upside down. 25, and I'm just snugging it. So 25, 5, 30, 31, 32 thousandths, exactly what that gasket says on there. Now, AFA's gaskets aren't marked like that. They just have a part number on them. So I had to measure them. And this is a print-a-seal gasket. That's what you see right there. That's a print-a-seal gasket. And this gasket here is 32 thousandths thick. All right, so we'll go get the old cam follower, clean that gasket off. Somebody left a comment that says people's definition of a new motor are different. Exactly, they are. And well, they are and they aren't. I mean, an in-frame is an in-frame. That's not a new motor. An in-framed engine is not a new engine. An outer frame is pretty much a new engine, most of it. I mean, technically, to me, a new engine is a new alternator, a new air compressor, a new camshaft, a new crankshaft bearings, new connecting rod bearings, Basically, it's new. Everything's new on it. That's a new engine. A refurbished engine is using a good crankshaft and a good camshaft that was already there. What the heck's going on here? I'm trying to find the gasket material. What was I saying? But yeah, that's most of the time when you in-frame an engine, I mean, you're still gonna have an old alternator on there. Most of the time, it depends on the customer if they want to keep going, and some guys do. I've had some guys that want you to change the air compressor, the alternator, and everything while you're there. They want everything on it changed, and then some guys just say, no, I'll change the alternator when it goes out. It just depends on what your customer wants and how far in this hole does he want to go. As simple as that. Wash it off too, but okay, I'm going to wash it off. I'm not as concerned. I pressure wash the block, but I'm not as concerned about the outside as I am the inside. But we'll clean this up too to make sure we're good. Alright guys, I know this is a little bit unorthodox the way we're doing this, but somehow I'm having a bat 1,000 here. Anyways, the crank installation and the cam bearing and cam installation, somehow the video clips are non-existent. I don't know where they went. They should have been on this SD card, but they're not there. Anyway, and then this one here somehow accidentally got on time-lapse mode, and I don't know if it's even possible to reverse that. So all I could really think to do was slow the video down in video speed and explain what I'm doing. You'll see here that this block has been decked already and cut 10 thousandths. That's what that means right there. So when you cut a block and somebody cuts the block, make sure that the counterbore ledges are cut too, because if you cut the block 10 thousandths, that means your liners are going to be sticking up 10 thousandths taller because you took that material off the top of the deck. So obvious on these N-14s, the liner protrusion is 4 to 7 thousandths versus like an ISX, you're going to see anywhere from 7 to 14 thousandths. The spec in the book on the ISX is 7 to 12. But what I wanted to tell you on these N-14s is you don't have near the problems with head gasket failures as you do on an ISX with those mid-stop liners. These are not mid-stop liners. The counterbore ledge is in the top of the block, just like an E-model cat is, or most of your older diesel engines. They're in the top. And even the Packards are using a top counterbore ledge. You know, Cummins is, I think, pretty much, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe some of the European engines are that I haven't ever been into. Maybe they're using mid-stop counterbore ledges. But as far as I know, the only ones that I've run across are the ISXs. Maybe somebody else has seen other ones. But as far as I'm concerned, Cummins needs to fix their problem on the ISXs with those mid-stop counterbore ledges. They need to redo their blocks and move them back up to the top where they were for years, where they had no problems with them. So anyways, that being said, on these N-14s, liner protrusion is 4 to 7 thousandths. Every one of these was right at 5 or 6 thousandths, which I'm not worried too much about that at all. Like I said, you don't have near the problems with head gasket failures and liner sinking and
things like that as you do with the ISXs. So on these have what they call lower press fit liners, and you'll see here that doing it, some of you guys probably think this is a crazy way to do it, but an old guy named Wayne Lahota, for years ago, I watched him do this time and time again, and I adopted his practice on it. And I just wrap a chain around the block, and just common sense. You don't want to put it up against something that's going to get damaged when the chain comes tight. Make sure it's not on sensors or any vital components that are going to get damaged. And you just basically just wrap it around and just jack the liner into it. And these lower press fit liners are not like some of the older big cam 400s were updated, and they had lower press fit liners put into them, which was way better. But they come out hard and they go in hard. And on those liners, there's 3 seals. Like an ISX has 1 liner O-ring, and that's it to keep the water out of the pan. But a big cam 400 or a N-14, they usually have a big quad seal on the liner, a big rectangular quad seal. It goes on first, and then you'll have 2 O-rings, and just lube them up real good. As you can see here, I'm checking liner protrusion, and I'm right at 5 to 7 thousandths on them, or 5 to 6 thousandths. I didn't have any that were 7. They were all right at 5 or 6. And another thing to keep in mind on these, there's a service shim under each flange of each liner, and those don't usually come with the kits. So, and like I said, I don't really have that many problems. I usually reuse the ones that came off the old liners because they don't come with the kits. And I've never really had that many problems with the liner shims wearing. If I do press in one that I've got a liner protrusion problem, then I'll actually measure my shim and I'll pull it back out, and then I'll order new shims. But so just basically do what I said there. You can, if you want to buy a liner installer press or whatever, they make them and they're $1,200-1,500, but you can just use a bottle jack and a chain and push them in, and then I just take a porta power. I've got a hollow ram with a plate on it. That's how I pull them out. Or to be completely honest with you, if I'm doing an outer frame like this, I'm not going to lie to you. I just flip the block upside down and put it on a couple blocks, and I just take a big hammer and a punch, and I just beat them out of there. Usually about 3 good swings with a good 8-pound short sledge and a punch, and just beat them in about 3 good swings, and they'll come right out. So anyways, that's liner. I think that's about really all I really can say about that. I'm putting another one in here and just lubing up. Just all I can say is this: with that Dawn dish soap or whatever lubrication you want to use, I would really try to refrain from using engine oil. There's always been a lot of discussion on that, as they say that the engine oil will swell up the liner O-rings and they'll pinch on you going in the block. So I try to keep from doing that. I just don't want to cut one and have water get in the pan and have to redo the whole engine because of that, or water get in the oil and spin a main bearing or spin a rod bearing because it took the lubricity away from the engine oil because it'd spin a bearing or something. So I just try to be as cautious as I possibly can. So as you can see there, I'm routing the chain away from things that are not going to get that I don't want to get damaged. So anyways, sorry about the video clip here. I think the rest of the videoing went somewhat normal.
Well, when I was videoing last, I was working on this in the morning. I started at 5 and I left here at like a little after 7, and went and looked at a 6190R. I got to get a roll of 5/16 fuel line and replace some fuel hose on it from the fuel tank over to the electric lift pump and all that stuff. And then I went to an international truck that had a 6.7 Cummins in it. Had DPF and SCR def in it, so newer truck. But I had regen that thing yesterday for them. And everything, the only code that was in there yesterday was, what is it? The 1922 code is in there, and that's, when you see the 1922 code, then you know you basically got to reset the DPF ash accumulator so you can clear the code, or at least get it to go to a 1921 code, and then you can do a regen on it. Well, that was the only code that was in there, and when I was doing the regen, I monitored all the live parameters. I monitored the differential pressure, which was, it was like at, while it was regenning, it was like at point, what was it, like 0.13 inches mercury, which is nothing abnormal. And so I didn't think much about it. I thought, well, you know, they must have just idled it too much and got it plugged up, you know, because they're harvesting strawberry plants at night, so that's not abnormal to think that. So anyway, I didn't think much about it, and it took a long time for it to regen to get the soot. I actually did 2 regens because it quit. It idled down at like 0.86 0.86 ounces of soot load, and I thought, you know, let's see if we can get it closer to 0. So I went ahead and did another one, and I got it down to 0, and I took off and thought we were good to go and everything. And he called me this morning and said, hey, it did it again. I said, what? I said, well, I'll be down there. So I went down there and looked at it again, and it was like at 2.46 ounces soot load. And it had a 1922 code, and then it had a couple of DPF differential pressure sensor data erratic codes, and I thought, and then I looked up there at the live ID and went into Insight and went into monitor data and went up there, and the differential pressure sensor was reading 10.41 inches mercury on the differential pressure. I thought, well, that's not right. So I took the hoses off and measured it with the hoses off, and it didn't change anything. I said, well, obviously we got a bad differential pressure sensor. And so I went ahead and did a regen anyway, because the shop foreman for that nursery, he said, I'm going to go up to town and get one. They had one. And so I did a regen, and by the time he got back, it already kicked the regen out, and it said 0 ounces on it when I got done, and I had to do 2 regens to get it back down to 0 ounces. And then when he got back, of course, keep in mind, while I was doing the regen, this thing constantly read 10.4 inches mercury on the differential pressure. Well, he gets back, and I put the new one in, and it read 0.06 inches mercury when it was cooled down and everything, you know, like it's supposed to. And, you know, of course, it went up when you gave it more throttle because you're going to get more pressure. Anyway, it was all working fine. And then I get to I got the new one on there, and it read right, but then it was saying 1.46 ounces, no, 1.26 inches. So it read soot load again. And so I regened it again and got it down to 0, and then it pretty much stayed there. You know, it got up to like 0.09 after that when I was throttling on it, but that's nothing abnormal. So he said they went out and test drove it. Because I left there, and then I had to go all the way, because McDowell is 35 miles south of Klamath, and so I went all the way down there, came all the way back, and then I had to go 30 miles that way out to Yana Valley and put a drive line that come out of the drive line between the rear ends on another Peterbilt potato truck. So I just got back from that whole fiasco. Oh, my chaotic life. Alright, so which way is the numbers? Some guy left a comment. See, there are helpful people. You know, some guy left a comment that says, just shake that. I didn't know that. It's actually pretty damn handy, really. Oh, my wife and her damn chickens. I guess there's worse things she could be into. So there's the alpha number right there on the rod. I was just making sure my orientation, I hadn't kind of had it figured out before I went back together. So, bearing tang. Is there a front part on the piston or anything like that? Let me get a new piston. Check this out, see what it looks like. Okay. I don't see any arrow or anything on this piston. And the release and the piston all look about the same. Nothing marked front. I guess I'll get the book and make sure, but seemed like to me, the last one I did, that the release on one side of the piston were cut deeper than the other side. I'll do a little bit more research on this. Well, son of a gun, I really screwed up here. I should have just told him to get a set of connecting rods for it too. Well, so these wrist pins are basically 2.5 inches on the button. There we go, 2.5 right on the button. Now, if I take a telescoping gauge and I go crossways, not where the wear, you know, I could tell when I pulled the wrist pin. I was like, I should have got rods with bushings in them because I see this is worn pretty bad. We're gonna have low oil pressure if we don't do something. So I'll show you what. Go in at an angle like that. Kind of tough to do because they don't leave you much room there. And if you measure the spot where it's really not worn very much, I have to just kind of lightly put that in the vise to kind of hold it. And that side of the rod is perfect. It's right at 2.5, right on the button. That's kind of where you want it. You're only allowed, I mean, you're not allowed hardly nothing. 2.0010, 2.0022. You're allowed just over 1/1000 on that. So if you go in here like this and measure the worn spot on it, damn it, people. It's a problem. It gets hung in that oil groove. You gotta get it to where it doesn't hang up in that oil groove. Why don't I go like this? Then straighten it out and then maybe turn it. Will that work for me? Okay. I had it here a minute ago where I was getting consistent readings every time. Yeah, I mean, I've got 0.005 of wear I've got 5/1000 of wear here, and you can tell too when you put the wrist pin in the bore. See that? I don't know if the camera's picking that up, but see that slop in there? You cannot have that on a wrist pin. You just cannot have that. That is a no-go. Okay, so we're dead in the water. Damn it. I was really wanting to keep going with this thing and have it done this weekend, and that's not going to happen now. Because I know that even if he does get bushings, no machine shop's going to get their ass in gear and get this done. Because I'll have to have these pressed out, and then the new ones pressed in, and then they'll have to be reamed to fit the pin. So, son of a bitch. I kind of dropped the ball on that deal. Just too many damn things going at one time here. Let me put one of my YouTube viewers, Mr. Myers, gave me all this stuff. And go like that. And the 0 to 1, I'm trying to remember, that goes in this hole here. Okay, well, that really sucks ass, okay? So, I guess there ain't much we can do. Damn it. Alright, guys, well, we just can't put it together like that. I mean, that's the recipe. Not only that's going to affect the oil pressure, the other thing that it's going to do is eventually it's going to throw a connecting rod because the bushing's worn out. So, jeez, okay. Alright, guys, well, get a hold of Tom there and get some damn bushings or some rods. Hopefully that'd be cool. I mean, now it's 4:30 in the afternoon. I get frustrated, guys, sometimes being in the service truck, and it's just, I get frustrated during harvest season because, I mean, it's just absolute pandemonium. Just every farmer in the world, I call it the road to Baghdad. You know, you guys remember the Gulf War, the Iraq War, and in between Kuwait and Iraq, that road there, they were just strafing them, and there was just 100 miles of blown up, burn up shit there on fire. That's what I call harvest time. It's the road to Baghdad. I mean, there's just shit torn up and blown up everywhere, you know, and it's just like, you get one of these, I know I'm complaining, and some guy goes, "Oh, you ever knew it's wine," while he's sitting there with his finger in his ass on his couch. But, anyway, it's just, you can't ever get these projects, and you can't, this is what happens though, you lose your focus on things and you drop the ball because you cannot ever focus on it. You're constantly getting called out for shit. So I guess it's just the nature of the game. I don't know why I'm bitching, but it's just frustrating sometimes, especially when you make a mistake like this and you don't get something ordered that you should have gotten ordered. But it is what it is, man. So I have Josh's hay squeeze here, so I will continue with soldering wires on this. That's what I'll do next. So I'll jump up in here and solder wires. Okay, guys, well, I'll let you know what happens. Well, I can do a few things. I'm not going to get the rods till Monday. So, at least I can do the rear main, get the rear flywheel, the flywheel housing on it. What I do on these, if I'm doing an outer frame like this, these rear seals, what I do is I just take this seal retainer off and put a new gasket on here, and then I just, take I just took a punch and a hammer and I just went around this evenly and put the seal in. Then take this, this comes with your seal, and there's a belt end on it, and then just slide that whole assembly onto the crankshaft, and then you don't need the seal installer or none of that stuff. specs for the... There's no gasket or nothing here on these old Cummins. That's one thing like different between like a cat motor and a lot of the cat, even the ISXs, there's oil back there that you have to seal off. Now on these older ones there's not. So you don't have to worry about that. The only thing that can really leak back here is the main crankshaft seal or this freeze plug, which is brand new because we put cam bearings in it. Okay. Okay, we can put the flywheel housing back on it. I took it out and pressure washed it off as best I could. Let's see where the dowels are on it. I'm having a heck of a time here. I thought I could slide it onto the dowels fairly easy, but that's not really happening. So I need to go to the next hole. Okay, I see. I see where I'm going wrong now. There we go. I see where I'm going wrong. I got one bolt up here I was using for a lifting point when I was flipping the block upside down. I'll have to take that one out. Get the impact and we'll run them up. Yeah, you're probably wondering, I thought you gave up on electric tools. That's a Harbor Freight one. I didn't even buy that. My renter, he come over and handed it to me. Here, take this, and I'm gonna go get another one. And he just insisted upon it. So I've been using it here in the shop here at home. Okay, so we gotta look up the torque spec. Let's walk back through the maze of crap here. Because I got the book over here on the bench. And there's a rod. Okay, so we need to look up, should be torque specs here. These are all the torque specs. Let's see if I can locate thermostat, reservoir, oil cooler, support bracket, hatch cooler, fan hub, fan drive belts, fan hub bracket. Oscar, where is the flywheel housing at? Water pump, blah 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 blah. Should be here somewhere. Cummins C brake, Jacobs. There we go. Flywheel. I think we're getting close. The flywheel is torqued to 200 foot-pounds. Vibration damper. Where is the flywheel housing? Torque at. Flywheel housing. Tighten in sequence shown. 150 foot-pounds. So I don't have my glasses with me, and that's very, very small. 1, 2, 3. They're just going in a crisscross pattern. So 150 foot-pounds on those. And Oscar's gonna help us out here. Let's take this one off that I was talking about. Go get the old torque wrench. I'll get an extension. Okay guys, this is your accessory drive gear and housing. Something I just noticed, I wasn't going to put a new bushing in this because the owner said that he had recently had one of the guys in this area do this, but I think he totally screwed it up. Okay, look at the wear on that. He didn't line the oil hole up in the bushing. The oil hole is, there's no oil getting to that bushing. Let's knock this out of here, guys. We got to do this right. That is definitely not right. Get all these bolts out of here. Yeah, that's a big recipe for disaster, and I'm gonna have to get it. I don't think that kit came with a new bushing either, but let's knock the seal out of it, and let's push that bushing out of there, and knock the front seal out too. Yeah, I mean, that's been running dry. There's the oil hole, as you can see. Pretty certain that's not right. You can see, here comes the noisy ass train now. See right here where the oil feeds through this hole, comes up through here. He's got this not aligned correctly. I'm surprised that this thing made it as far as it did, really. We hear you. Now I don't have my bushing driver set. That's the largest one I got. I'm trying to remember how I did the last one. Let's see if this socket will work. We got to get a new bushing. We're not going to reuse this one. He didn't line up the oil hole. He didn't line the oil hole up. Look at the wear on that brand new bushing he just stuck in there. Look at that. See, there's your oil hole right there. Can't believe that guy did that. Well, I can't badmouth people too. I make mistakes as well. But man, you got to pay attention to that kind of stuff right there. So, I guess that's another thing, that we're kind of dead in the water. I could probably clean this up and at least mount this to the back side of the front cover. And then I got to get a hold of Tom and get a new bushing for that accessory drive, yeah, that ain't right. I know that the kit came with the seal, but it did not come with the bushing. Yeah, there's a seal here somewhere. I saw it. There's the front crankshaft seal. I really can't even do that. I can't. I mean, you either do one or the other. You can mount the accessory drive to the back and not put the front cover on, or you can go ahead and put the front cover on and the front seal in, and then later on you'll have to put the bushing in, then the accessory drive. But you can't do one or the other, you know what I'm saying? Because there's no way to put the bushing in. If you got this on the back of the accessory drive and the shaft sticking through the hole, you're not going to get the bushing in. So I'm just trying to weigh my options here. I'm thinking about going ahead and putting the front cover on it, putting the front main seal in it, and then I can put this on later because I can put the bushing in with it on. Let me think this through here. I'm pretty certain I can. Let's grab the front cover. Just trying to do as much as I can while I can with what parts I do have. Pretty certain that I can go. Okay, this is the accessory drive, so it's going to be like that. Go like that. Yeah, I mean, I can put that bushing in with this on there, and then put my accessory drive on the back. I can get more done this way than I can the other way. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this all up real good. Get a new gasket, mount it here, and we'll put this in the front crankshaft seal, and that's probably going to be about all we can do till we get the rods and pistons figured out and get the bushing for the accessory drive. I'm going to call Tom right now, and golly, I can't believe that. Well, I guess I can. I mean, I've made mistakes myself. I can't run people down too much. I mean, hell, people make mistakes, you know. So you got to keep in mind too, he was doing it with it in the truck, and maybe he thought he had it lined up and it wasn't, you know, because it was in the truck, and it's a lot harder to do that in the truck than it is sitting out here where you can see it real good. So anyhow, all right guys, let me clean this up. We'll get a new gasket and we'll put this on there. Okay, let's see how this works out. What the hell's going on here? Am I doing this? I'm all screwed up here. Okay there, genius. Maybe you want to do that. And that anaerobic sealer will clean off way easier than that high-tack crap will. That stuff is just almost welds the gasket to the, it almost infuses the gasket into the cover to where you can't get the shit off of there. I can't stand that stuff, man. The anaerobic sealer is 100 times better to use on this kind of stuff than. And then it doesn't set up so quick on you. It's anaerobic. It means without air. Okay, let's get the gasket over here. A lot of the old timers, they aren't used to this newer stuff like this, so they're set in their ways, and they like this, like that old Permatex high-tack stuff. And there's just way better things to use now than that stuff. It's just the truth of the matter. Okay. Just the gasket to give the cover to slide onto the dowels, maybe? Why are you not sliding onto the dowels? Why are you not doing that? I don't like this on your knees shit anymore, I'll tell you that much. These are all long bolts here. Oh, I see. You're gonna back it off a little bit. What the fuck is going on here with this son of a bitch? Oh! Get your ass over there, dickhead. Alright, gee whiz, what a pain in the ass. Alternator mounting bolt goes in there somewhere. Another thing a guy has to kind of pay attention to. Obviously it's not that one. It's a long one there. That's a long bolt. Missing some bolts here for some reason. It's kind of odd. I don't know where the hell those are at. Right. Okay, let's go look up the torque specs for this now. Now, when you're doing this, you're going to have your timing marks on your cam and your crank, and then you're going to have a timing mark on the accessory drive. To find that timing mark, you're going to have to rotate. All the timing marks don't line up on any of the big cams or any 855 blocks. Okay, what you have to do is line up your cam and crank when you put your cam in and your crank in, and then you'll have to rotate your engine. Pull this Allen head plug out of here, and I took my yellow paint marker and marked that. Once you get your cam and crank lined up, you'll have to rotate the crankshaft. You'll have to come, hi Bubba. You'll have to come the opposite direction of rotation and bring that mark around to this hole, and then line your accessory drive up with it. Let's go look up the torque spec for the front cover. See if we can find that. I know I should probably bring the book closer to where I'm at. But I got a feeling it's probably going to be further on down the line here. There's the firewall housing, cam follower housing, cylinder head, accessory drive mounting cap screws, accessory drive pulley, front engine support bracket, 50 foot-pounds, vibration damper, accessory drive pulley, they're not showing. An oil pump, cam follower housing, cylinder head, connecting rod, flywheel housing, mounting plate, adapter mounting screws. Why aren't they showing? Gear cover, there it is. 50 foot-pounds, okay. And then we'll put the front seal in and we'll go down and work on a feed truck. Shut my truck off. $50 foot-pounds, Oscar. Let's just kind of start in the middle out here. Okay, and then I'm just going to go around it. I'll just start down here, because I know if I try going crossways on this one, I'll get all screwed up. And on this one, already got that one. All right, front crankshaft seal. Now, another thing I want to talk to you about on these, you know, most engines will have a thrust plate. There'll be a notch in the cam, and the plate will go behind the cam gear on the cam itself, and that's your thrust plate. These engines are set up a little different, and I'll show you here real quick. Just keep the shims that you got. We'll be fine. We didn't change the cam or anything. But here's the shims that go in it. Keep track of all them. And then this cover right here. There's a big O-ring on here. Make sure you change that O-ring. We'll do that here in a minute. But let's go ahead and put the front crankshaft seal in it. I got the seal installer, I think. Oh, the seal installers, and where is that? Cummins. I've got one here somewhere. I gotta find it. Ring compressors. That's a rear crankshaft seal installer for a cat engine. There's a 6.7 Cummins seal installer. I know I've got one here somewhere. There is anti-polishing ring tool for an ISX. This is all Detroit stuff here. I think this is all, that's all Detroit special tools. There's the ISX rear seal installer. How come I am not seeing my front crankshaft seal installer for the N-14? It must be in my truck somewhere. I probably had a service call. Oh, now I remember. I had to do on a cab over for some potato guys, and I took it with me, and I never did put it back in my toolbox like I should have. There's a timing pin for a B model cat on the injection pump. Okay. This is what happens when you're a field mechanic and you can't keep your shit straight between the shop and the service truck. Okay, I would think front crankshaft seal installer should be around here somewhere, but I am not seeing it. Okay guys, I gotta go on the hunt and find this thing. It should be around here somewhere. Okay, I found my tool. It was in my service truck. Got it. I'm gonna go like this. You can pull this off now. Take the seal installer. What's going on here? Find another crankshaft damper bolt. I think these are actually 7/8. These. Probably just get a ratchet, but oh well. See if we just go about a turn. Basically tool bottoms out, and then that'll be in the home position. If we're bottomed out there. Okay, should be it. Oops. I got this. I get a lot of my seal installers from Freedom Racing or Monaco Tool. Okay, there it is. That's what it's supposed to look like. Usually right around flush with this. You can do it without it, but it sure is a lot nicer with the installer. And I didn't use it on the back because with the doing it the way we're doing it with an outer frame, it's pretty easy. Now you cannot put your crankshaft damper on before you get your thrust deal here on your cam, because the damper will kind of sit here, it'll cover it up.